Hi, I'm Daniel. Welcome to Oxford Online English. In this lesson, you can learn how to use the prepositions at, on, and in to talk about where something is. Before we start, don't forget to check out our website, oxfordonlineenglish.com. You can find links in the video description. Why not start with the full version of this lesson, where you can test your skills with a quiz? Also, do you want to watch this video with subtitles? You can turn them on now. Just click the CC button in the bottom right of your video player. They're in the kitchen. She's putting the lettuce in a bowl. Use in for rooms and indoor spaces. For example, in the living room, in the apartment, in my bedroom. Also, use in for containers and enclosed spaces. For example, in the bowl, in the box, in your pocket. I live in Seattle, in the northwest of the USA. Use in for cities and countries. In Brazil, in Paris, in China, and so on. Also use in plus north, south, east or west. For example, she lives in the south of Spain. Thailand is in Southeast Asia. We stayed in a small hotel in the centre of Venice. Use in with establishments and businesses. For example, in the shop, in a restaurant, in the supermarket. Sometimes at is also possible here with a similar meaning. You'll see the exact difference in part 3 when we talk about using at. You also say in the centre or in the middle. Here's another example. In the picture, there are 3 purple flowers in the middle. Use in to talk about media. For example, in a picture, in this photograph, in the film. Luckily, there was no one in the car when it sank in the water. Use in with cars and taxis. With most other transport, use on. You also use in to mean surrounded by a material. For example, in the air, in the sea, in a thick sauce. She goes running in the park every morning. We went for a walk in the countryside. You use in to talk about many outdoor spaces. You can use in for smaller enclosed spaces, for example in the park, in a field, or in the garden. You can also use in for larger, more open spaces, for example in the countryside, in the sky, or in the world. While eating breakfast, he felt a pain in his stomach. Use in to talk about things which are enclosed by part of your body. You can hold something in your hand. If you eat too much sugar, you'll get toothache, a pain in your tooth. She had to stay in hospital for a few days after the operation. There are some fixed phrases with in that don't follow a clear pattern. The most useful are in bed, in hospital, and in prison. Try to remember these 3. I was waiting in the queue for over an hour. Finally, use in to talk about things which are in a line. For example, we sat on the floor in a row. He arranged his tools in a neat line. This also works if you arrange things into a shape. For example, we set out the chairs in a circle. Now you've seen all the common ways to use in as a preposition of place. Next, what about on? He took the fruit and arranged it on the tray. You use on when something is on top of a surface. For example, on the floor, on the shelf, or on the kitchen counter. He hung his jacket on the wall. You can use on with all kinds of surfaces, not just horizontal ones. For example, she has a small spot on her nose. He spilled coffee on his shirt. He's sitting on the sofa on the right. Use on with furniture, for example, on the bed, on my desk, or on a chair. The book had a blue cover with nothing written on it. Use on with print media, for example, on page 1, on the menu, on the map. We stayed on a small island. You use on with many geographical features like islands, mountains, beaches, and so on. I went there on my motorbike. Use on with transport which you sit on top of, bicycles, motorbikes, and horses. You also use on with public transport and boats. So you say on the plane, on the bus, on the boat, and on the ferry. Here's one more example. He's sitting on the train and talking on the phone. Here there's another use of on. Do you know why we say on the phone? Use on for talking about devices. You say on the phone, on the internet, and on the Xbox. The restaurant is on the top floor, overlooking the river. Finally, use on with floors. You can say on the ground floor, on the second floor, on the fifth floor, and so on. Finally, let's see how you can use at. I'm at the airport, just waiting to board. At is often used with public places. For example, you can say at the cinema or at the mall. At, in this case, can mean that you're inside the place or just near it. Often, in these cases, it's possible to use in or at with no difference in meaning. You can say, I'm in the supermarket or I'm at the supermarket. Both are correct and commonly used. There might be a small difference. If you want to emphasise that you're inside a building, then use in. If you're outdoors, then use at. They sat at the table and discussed what to do next. At can mean next to. Let's see a couple more examples. Someone's at the door. Can you answer it? I was waiting at the bus stop for half an hour. I was at a conference for most of last week. Use at with events. You can say at a meeting, at their wedding, or at his birthday party. She's at the dentist's for a cleaning. Use at with people's homes or offices. You can say, I was at Tim's house yesterday, or we'll be at Sasha's place for dinner tonight. My brother's at university, studying history. There are a few fixed phrases with at that it's better just to memorise. The most important ones are at home, at work, at school, at college, and at university. Note that you never use an article like a or the in phrases at home and at work, and you generally don't use an article when you say at school, at college, or at university. At the end of her presentation, they gave her a round of applause. Use at to talk about position or time with phrases like at the end of, at the beginning of, at the top of, or at the bottom of. For example, please read and follow the instructions at the top of the page. There's one exception here. If you're talking about two separate objects, then use on top of. For example, my suitcase is on top of the wardrobe. I live at 13 Crickenwell Crescent. Finally, use at with house numbers, for example if you're giving your address. Now you know many ways to use in, on and at as prepositions of place. Don't forget to visit our website and test your skills with the quiz. There are a few less common uses of in, on and a few exceptions which we haven't mentioned in this video. Do you know any? Share your ideas in the comments. See you next time.